Welcome to Remove Before Flight, where we help prepare veterans to start, grow, or scale a business. We're back for another episode of Remove Before Flight. I hope everyone enjoyed their Memorial Day weekend last weekend. Hard to believe we're in June already. This past week on the Change Your POV podcast network, there were some really great episodes released. If you've not had the chance to catch Jeff and his Changing Hearts and Minds show, I highly recommend you listen to this past Wednesday's episode called Overexposed. You can find it at changeyourpov.com/CHM2. Jeff touches on some of the many issues facing our active duty military and veterans with things we are exposed to while serving and the lack of treatment thereafterwards, all in the name of medicine. Don't forget to catch Attack Fridays, where you never know what Eddie and Bennett have in store for you. If you have not already subscribed to the Change Your POV podcast network, head over to iTunes or your favorite podcasting software and subscribe today to ensure you never miss an episode. While visiting iTunes, be sure to give Change Your POV a thumbs up and, when possible, rate the episodes you love. This week on Remove Before Flight, we had the pleasure of sitting down with Anthony Armelino from the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, where he oversees the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for veterans with disabilities. Anthony shares with us some of his experiences as an Army veteran and the great programs offered at IVMF. After our interview with Anthony, join us for part 2 of our series on SEO and how it can help your business. Now let's get started by welcoming Anthony to our show and asking him to give us his 30,000-foot overview in his own words.
Sure, Kevin. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, and it's really a pleasure. So my name is Anthony Armelino. I am the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans with Disabilities Program Manager here at the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University. So that's a really long title, and I think we'll get into that later. But on top of that, things that I guess you wouldn't know outside of talking to me is I'm a Navy brat. My dad was a 20-year retired Navy vet. My little brother's currently serving in the Navy as a cryptologic technician. Does some neat computer stuff that I don't know anything about. But I've got a beautiful wife, 3 kids, the ranges 9 through 3, with a daughter and 2 sons.
Nice. You served yourself. How would you say the military has impacted your life and made you who you are today?
Sure. No, great question. So I guess I tell stories really more than just answer questions. So I think for me, military service was interesting. I was a junior in high school and met with my parents about college. And they said, Anthony, we think you're smart, but we're broke, and good luck going to college. We recommend you join the military. So seeing my dad in the uniform all the time, was inspiring, and it's something I knew was going to happen. So I decided to join the Army Reserves while I was in high school, just prior to college. And I got the basic training, and I realized at that point that there are kind of 2 different types of people that join the military and go through that training. There's the first group, which are more cynical. They kind of laugh at, the leadership stuff and the team stuff, and they just don't quite get it. And then there are the other half, which I like to think I'm a part of, which is they use that event as a kind of a changing experience for their life. And they realize at that point that it's not about you anymore. It's about the team. Your success is really only measured by your team's success. And so I leave that now, and it really helps me serve here at the IVMF with the attitude of success of the team and the mission more than me.
Nice. Now, you gave us a mouthful for a job title, the Institute of Veterans and Military Families, IVMF. Can you give us a brief history on IVMF and how they serve the veteran community?
Certainly. So in 2007, Dr. Mike Haney was a new professor at the Whitman School of Management. He was an Air Force veteran, and he realized that at that time there was no training programs throughout the country that was focused exclusively on disabled veterans that wanted to become successful entrepreneurs. So he pitched it to the dean of the school at that time and said, hey, if I can get this thing funded, can you help support it and allow me to do this? And the dean was all for it. He was a Vietnam-era vet and loved the idea. So that first year we had 18 veterans that went through the program, and from there it was a smashing success. And so tons of external organizations loved it, and the SBA, the Small Business Administration, liked it. They started funding part of the program. Flash forward to 2011, the success of that program expounded into other programs, which in turn created the Institute for Veterans and Military Families. So in 2011, J.P. Morgan Chase, our founding partner, helped fund the Institute. At that point, we were then the IVMF, and kind of grew into multiple programs, multiple research departments, and multiple community outreach departments.
Nice. Now, the other half of your title, you talked about the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans with Disabilities. Can you explain the difference between EBV and EBVF?
No, certainly. So the two programs are very similar. EBV, the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans, is exclusive to disabled veterans that are post 9/11 with a service-connected disability. EBVF, on the other hand, is the intent of that program is to allow the caregivers or family members of a severely disabled veteran to attend in their place. So when it was created, the idea was to bring in all these vets and train them, but then we realized that some folks just physically cannot attend. So the answer to that was EBVF. It's kind of changed over the years, and it currently is only run at Syracuse University and Florida State University, whereas EBV is run at 10 different universities around the country.
Having graduated from EBV, I can tell you it's a very remarkable program that's available to my fellow veterans, and it's available at no cost. Can you tell us some of the success stories that have come out of EBV?
Sure. I mean, I guess I won't say specific names, but I would say it's always intriguing to keep up with folks. Every year we do an annual survey where we ask people, where are you at? What are you doing? How many people have you hired? And it's always intriguing to get those numbers back. And so some of the numbers specifically across the country, I think we're up to actually $212 million of annual revenue of our graduates. So I think across the board we have about 1,400 grads. Of those 1,400, about 68% went on to start businesses. Of the 68% that started, 92% are still in business today, which on the surface doesn't seem like a great number, but in reality, it's, as far as I'm aware, it's really the best in the nation in terms of success rates for that graduate program. But on the other hand, a lot of the local grads do quite well. I personally run the Syracuse program, not the entire consortium, and so it's neat to kind of keep up to date with some folks. Obviously, you yourself are doing very well. We have a grad out in Buffalo who started a UAV company and has kind of pivoted his business strategy a little bit to be more of a consultant. And I know he's working some really good deals with some of the schools out there, the police departments, and other real estate agencies to provide some kind of support to them. So it's just really neat to do a lot of that and to keep up to date with folks.
Absolutely. I'm actually still trying to convince Larry to come on here and talk about that pivot. I think it brings a lot of value to people who are starting a business or at that stage that they realize they need to pivot. And just him sharing that experience will bring wonders. But he's nervous to be on here and doesn't think he's got the right skills. And
that's okay.
So maybe after he hears this, he'll take me up on my offer. So typically, what does EBV look for in an applicant that makes sure they're a good fit for the program?
Sure. So that's actually an interesting question. And I guess the short answer is there really is no ideal candidate. But with that being said, we meet as a consortium. All the directors get together once a year and we talk about this. And we try to identify, who's the ideal candidate. And the challenge is each school looks at things a little bit differently. But across the board, I guess there's really a few things that we do try to look for. The first and most important was a very clear and concise idea of what they want to do. Either have started a business or at least towards the point of being able to do the startup. So it's good to have a serial entrepreneur that wants to do a million things and do them all well, but the challenge is for a candidate to come through the program, if you find time to talk to a professor or a mentor or anybody that comes in to support and you want to talk about 15 different topics, about 15 different business ideas, at the end of the day, the advice probably won't really help you that well. Whereas if you come to the class with one central theme, you can really focus your questions and the answer sessions on very specific things that will help you out. And secondly, we really don't want to be somebody that's been super successful already. They've done their business. They're doing great. They just kind of want a little bit more assistance. I would say this really isn't quite the program for you. We'd still love to have you apply and look at you, but for the most part, we really think the Phase 3 support of our program is really geared more for the startups and for folks that are just the first few years into their business.
Absolutely. So if somebody's not at the right level for EBV, are there other programs which IVMF has which would be a fit for them?
Certainly. No, we offer a few different entrepreneurship training programs. One of them is the Boots to Business program. What that is specifically for is for transitioning veterans as they leave active duty. It is actually part of the transition assistance program now on many bases. So what that is a 2-day in-person class where you have a live instructor up there. teaching the course and going through your business plan and your market research. And then after that, they follow on with 8 additional weeks of online training. We also have the Boots to Business Reboot, which is basically the same program, except it's not for transitioning veterans. It's for veterans that have already gotten out of the military and that are now living out in the community. And we run those courses throughout the country at different points in time. Mostly, though, anywhere there's a small business administration office, you typically would see a reboot somewhere in that vicinity. So the challenge now is finding folks that live kind of out in the middle of nowhere and getting them in for the training. But that is something we're trying to work on. And last, and really not the least program, is our VWise, which is our Veteran Women Igniting the Spirit of Entrepreneurship. It's an exceptional program. I wouldn't say it's really any more or less than EBV. It's just sort of a different audience. VWise is focused exclusively on women veterans, female spouses, and life partners, and as well as female service members. So it's a great program. The difference between EBV and VWise is that the duration of the training is a little bit less. So EBV, on one hand, runs for 8 to 9 days in residency at a school. VWise is run at conference centers around the country, and that goes between 3 to 4 days long. So just a slightly different duration, but at the end of the day, the similar outcome of training.
Nice. What drives you personally to be a part of IVMF and EBV?
That's a great question. So interesting story is a year and a half ago, I was living in Houston, Texas, working at a great company, and I realized I was spending more of my time doing stuff off work with veterans in the community and just working with people that I knew, and just trying to help them thrive and be successful. And when I had heard that the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans program manager position was open, I applied with the intention of helping vets. And so flash forward now a year and some change, and I've been here, and I really enjoy the fact that everything that we do here at the Institute is exclusively focused on enriching the lives of veterans and their family members. And that's kind of key there. I think it's always great to focus on the veterans, but at the same time, we wouldn't be a veteran if we didn't have our families. And so to really be able to focus on the spouses and the kids and ensuring their success is very important to me.
Absolutely. So in that past year that you've been with IVMF, what would you say has been your most satisfying moment?
So I think, Kevin, you're kind of there, man. I'd say last year's class, we had a EBV class last July here at the university, and as much as I enjoy the office stuff and talking to people over the phone, it's really nothing compares to being in person and seeing people's ideas basically be enriched through the course, and not only working with the vets, but really the level of professionals that come and volunteer at our course is astounding. And to work with some of these folks, some are vets, some are not veterans, but they're all experts in their fields. And to see them come in and volunteer their time free of cost to us to see veterans thrive and be successful is inspiring to me. And it just makes everything totally worth it.
Now, to be a successful entrepreneur, it takes a lot of sacrifices. What are some of the sacrifices you've seen entrepreneurs come through the program have to make?
I'd say probably a lot of folks kind of misunderstand the idea of being an entrepreneur is they can kind of set their own clock and their own dates, and which is true. But on the same hand, I guess the joke is this: a friend of mine posted online the other day that he was at home. It was about 1 a.m, and he worked on a concept for a business that he was working with, and he emailed it to the guy at about 1 a.m. And he says almost 15 minutes later, he gets a response back from the guy, and he goes, "Hey, I love the design. I love what you're doing. I really want to talk more about this." And he replied back immediately and was like, "Hey, it's 1:30 in the morning now. Why are you answering your email?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm an entrepreneur and small business owner. There is no such thing as off the clock." And so I think a lot of people kind of struggle with that idea, and it can be challenging when you have a family and some small children at home. So it's really identifying that balance, maybe not necessarily the sacrifice.
Yeah, that work-life balance can get interesting. Today myself, I started my day at 3 a.m. so that I could get a couple hours in on a project I knew had to be done by 7 before getting the kids ready to go to school and dealing with that whole ordeal. But if you had to give 3 pieces of advice to a veteran out there who wants to become an entrepreneur, what would they be?
I'd say, from what I've seen and observed, I'd say there's really 3 main things that I would recommend. Is 1, find a mentor. Most folks that I see struggling have just not found anybody in their field that they really feel comfortable asking questions to. And I'd say having that mentor in your basically your foxhole to help answer questions that might be too embarrassing to ask other folks or to learn lessons from is critical. Second thing is finding the right team. A lot of people, they think they know what they want, They come through the course and they identify that they need to pivot their team, and maybe that's to answer natural weaknesses in their own team or their skills. But it's really critical you surround yourself with the right people. And then the last thing is don't be afraid to use absolutely every resource out there at your disposal. A lot of veterans that I talk to about the EBV program get very concerned about the fact that this is specifically for veterans with disabilities, and they feel awkward about wanting to take advantage of that program. And they say, well, I'm not really as disabled as somebody else, or I don't really have as many problems as somebody else. And really, I mean, at the end of the day, is if you were to flip that role on yourself and say, well, hey, if I could offer help to a fellow veteran, regardless of their situation, would I want them to take advantage of it? And typically the answer is yes. So I'd say don't cut yourself short. Take advantage of everything that's out there.
Yeah, I struggled with that myself. I was hung up on that word disability. But I can tell you, it was one of the best decisions I could have made to join the program.
Great. No, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So outside of IVMF, EBV, are there other veteran organizations you're a part of?
No, great question. So I'm a big fan of Team Red, White, and Blue. It was about 2012. I had a friend of mine who was stationed up at Fort Drum with me. He said, Anthony, what are you doing over lunch? You got to come to the gym with me. And so I showed up to the gym. We started working out, and I realized him and everybody else were wearing these red shirts with an eagle on it. And afterwards, I was like, hey, Hutch, what is going on? What is this? He goes, oh, hey, by the way, it's a Team Red, White, and Blue. It's a nonprofit, and the focus is enriching the lives of veterans through social and physical activity. And you should go to the website, sign up, and get a free shirt. I was like, well, who says no to a free shirt? So, but I flashed forward about 5 years, and I found that the Team Red, White, and Blue has been like a second family for me. Specifically when we moved and we completely rerouted our family and moved to Texas after the military. And the network of people that I ran into down there was astounding. They brought me right in and my family right in immediately. And it was awesome to felt like friends and family in an area that I'd never lived in before, almost immediately. So just the impact that Team RWB does is pretty astounding.
Absolutely. And we've scheduled an interview with Mike, one of the captains of the local chapter.
No, Mike's a good guy.
Yeah, to talk a little bit more about that. And we're hoping we can pick his brain about the SBA as well, but he's waiting for a little clearance on that one.
Certainly.
All right, so on this show, I kind of like to ask all my guests a question, and that's if you could talk to one person from any point in history, who would it be and why?
I'd say it's probably not anybody famous. Nobody would know who he is, but I would say probably my grandfather on my mom's side. So Grandpa Schmidt was a very quiet guy. He was very humble. And basically unassuming. And when I was a kid, I never really took full advantage of learning and understanding him a little bit better. And I kind of regret that now. He, as I talk to my parents now and I hear more stories about him, I realize he's somebody that I should have taken advantage of and just kind of talked to as much as possible and learn from, because he's just a really nice guy. And he's one of the people that has a gigantic heart, but a spine of steel. And I guess it's challenging unless you meet him. But yeah, I would probably want to sit on a bench and hang out with him for another day.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a grandfather similar like that, and I was overseas when he passed away, so I never got that chance to say goodbye. And I just feel like there's always that void there. There's so much more knowledge I wanted from him, but we don't control that destiny, unfortunately.
Certainly.
So, Anthony, you're a busy guy, and I appreciate the time you've given us. I know our listeners will enjoy the great value brought to our show today. Before we go, is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I really appreciate the time you took to talk to me. I'm looking forward to listening to Remove Before Flight. I caught a couple of your, episodes on Facebook, and I think they're really intriguing. I wish you best luck with it.
Perfect. Thank you.
If you want to learn more about IVMF, you can visit the show page for this episode at changeyourpov.com/RBF005 for links to the various programs offered by IVMF. They have many great opportunities for veterans and their families. I want to take a moment and apologize to you for not having the best audio quality for this interview. I had the pleasure of conducting this interview in person with a Tascam portable recorder, and I did not have it set up properly. I've been getting a lot of feedback from listeners about this show and about the network in general. And many have asked, how can they book time with me to talk more in detail? Well, I have a few options. One, if you're seeking a mentor session, you can book one with me on Veterati by visiting bookacallwithkevin.com. That'll take you directly to my Veterati profile. If you're looking to be a guest on Remove Before Flight, visit changeyourpov.com/remove-before-flight-interview and book a time slot that is convenient for you. And lastly, if you're looking to hire me to build a website or launch a marketing campaign, visit pinktietech.com/discovery-session. Wow, that was a mouthful. So many links. Don't worry about writing them all down. Just visit our show page, changeyourpov.com/RBF005, and you'll find links to every one of these. Before we get started in part 2 of our SEO series, I want to take a moment and talk with you about an exciting opportunity for you to promote your business. The Change Your POV podcast network has been growing and expanding. This does not come without added expenses. Currently, our operating costs are covered by sponsors and our hosts. What? We don't get paid? Wait a minute. Wait. Back up. Psst, I thought I was getting paid here. Eddie, I think we need to have a talk. But seriously, how would you like to hear your business advertised to over 7,000 people every month? Last month, we had over 7,000 unique downloads of the episodes on Change Your POV. Reach out to me at kevin@pinktietech.com and we can discuss the opportunity to put your business on any show within the Change Your POV network. Over the next few weeks, we will be spending our marketing segment discussing search engine optimization, also known as SEO. In this multi-part series, we will teach you what it takes to dominate your competition. Last week, we introduced you to SEO and gave you a general overview of what it was and how it started. Now let's begin part 2, where we're going to focus on keywords, goals, and your competition. What are keywords? Basically, a word or set of words in a phrase that you would like to rank for when a user enters a query in a search box. So if you owned an Italian restaurant in Syracuse, New York, you might want to rank for the keyword Italian food Syracuse, or possibly even pizza delivery Syracuse. How do you know what keywords you should be ranking for? First things first, hopefully you know your own industry and what people might type into search boxes to find your goods or services. But it can get quite a bit more involved than that. And actually, if you've been nestled into your industry for quite some time, you may be out of the loop of what people commonly search for because you're used to all the technical terms and phrases that are industry specific. But there's good news and hope for you, because there are a ton of tools out there. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. We're going to mention some of them here in a minute, but they allow you to go out and see what people are searching for and how many times they're searching, so you know whether that keyword is relevant for you to use or something completely off base that nobody's even searching for. So there's tons of tools out there. I'm going to just cover 5 of them here real quickly. Some of them I've used in the past and some I continue to use today. But you're going to find that each person has their own list of what they like and what they don't like about the various tools. First and foremost, Google is a very good tool. They used to have a different keyword tool, and a lot of people you'll find when you're doing research on the internet or trying to look up stuff about this, that'll say that Google did away with the keyword tool. They did. However, they still have it in a different form. You have to sign up for a Google AdWords account. Doesn't mean you have to spend money with them, but they have a keyword planner that's built into AdWords that'll give you some statistics about the keywords you want to use and how often people are searching for them. So a couple of the other tools are Moz, which you can find they have a keyword explorer, and it helps you research across multiple search engines, not just Google. Then there's SpyFu. Spy Food's pretty good to find some keywords. Now they do offer a small trial, like a free version of their software, but the paid version is there too. There's a place called SERPs with an S, SERPS, that has a keyword research tool, and then there's keywordtool.io. Now, don't worry about all of these right now. All you have to do is visit this show page, changeyourpov.com/RBF005, and you'll find I have links to all of these there for you to help you with your research. So you're saying, all right, Kevin, you're kind of an expert in this. You do this for a living. What's your go-to tool? I don't have a specific single tool I use. I use a combination of a bunch of tools. Out of that list I gave you, I would say the Google Keyword Planner is probably a big one that I use for researching. Moz is definitely, and I'll give you a pre-warning on that. Moz has very limited free tools. They are one of the paid services. If you're doing this on a regular basis and you're a professional, sometimes it makes sense to pay for some of these tools to get the better information. And then occasionally I'll use SpyFu, but not so much to look for a specific site I'm working on, but to look at their competitors and see what their competitors are using for keywords and trying to rank either for a paid ad or an organic search. So if those two terms are foreign to you, let me dive in a little bit more. When you go to Google, you'll see ads listed at the top, and they'll say, that they're sponsored or that they're an ad. Organic is the stuff that'll come below that. Sometimes if you're doing a local listing, you'll get the map listing there. It'll be those next terms below there. Organic means naturally they came to that spot. And they do it through the methods that we're talking about on this series called search engine optimization. So what are some other ways that you can look at for keywords? Simply go to a search engine. Most major search engines now will try to, as you type in that search term that you want to look for, will try to complete your sentence for you. Look at what they're giving you. They're giving you the information that most people are asking for. You start typing out something and it tries to complete your sentence or give you options. Those are what they're seeing trends of people asking over and over again. Google's really good about this, but don't forget about the other search engines. When using this technique, you'll get a lot of great keyword suggestions from sites like YouTube, which is owned by Google, so naturally they're going to use the Google search results, the same engine style like coding and everything else to bring up those results. But you've got Bing out there. I'm not a fan of Bing, but I also am not a Microsoft guy. If you know me well, or you'll find from listening to these shows, I'm a Linux guy, and I'm forced to use Windows, unfortunately, for a couple applications. But so I'm not a fan of Microsoft, so that's why sometimes I'll shoot down Bing. But Bing hovers sometimes in the number 2 spot as a search engine. I think they're crap looking at their results, but some people favor them. So don't use my opinion as the golden goose to the golden rule or whatever. But Yahoo's out there, even though they're not a strong player anymore, they're still there. They still have a lot of history in the search community. So, and there's a lot of local little search engines that you can look for what people are searching for in your local area. So don't be afraid to go out there and use other search engines to try and get keywords for your website. All right, so let's get back a little more on topic of using these tools. So go out, sign up for a few of them, check them out, do a search for yourself, find some other tools. Each person's going to have their own personal preference, but sign up for a few of them. And the first thing you want to start off with is let them scan your own website. Let them come back and tell you what you currently rank for. It may be a shock to you what you see you're coming up for is not something you thought that you would come up for. So after you do this, you're going to want to use some kind of spreadsheet, whether, it's Google Sheets, Excel, tons of different programs out there, whatever your favorite one is, and you're going to want to keep a list. I would recommend either 2 separate tabs within that or 2 separate files that one you'll want what you currently rank for, and the other you'll want what you desire to rank for. This way you can keep everything what it is, what the term, whether it's a single word, 2 words, 3 words, the phrase, and then where you currently rank for that keyword. So you want to keep this spreadsheet handy, because this is going to be something you're going to refer back to on regular basis as you keep checking your rankings and seeing where you rank for the various keywords. So now let's take a look at the list of desired keywords you've made. Now, you want to make sure that you're keeping short tail and long tail keywords. Now, what's the difference between these? So let's take fish tanks, for example. That would be short tail. Fish tanks, 2 words. Long tail, how about fish tanks in apartments, fish tank stands, fish tanks for cheap, fish for fish tanks. Those are examples of some long tail. Depending on your business, you'll want to make sure that they're geo-specific as well. So back to our Italian restaurant example, if we put just the words Italian restaurant, we're trying to compete with all of the Italian restaurants in the world. Now, places like Google do a geographic search results. So if you're searching within, Syracuse, New York, it is going to provide you with more of a targeted results based on your geographic area. But they don't do this for all words. It's only, product, services, businesses, a couple other little things. But it's open up Google and do a search for pizza. You're going to see pizza results around you. So, but, so if you want to claim other areas that are geographically around you, and you're in Syracuse, and, you say that I want Oswego, which is a suburb north of Syracuse, that, it's probably about 45 minutes away. I could turn around and say that, Italian restaurant Oswego would capture that audience. Now, are you going to get the same results? Probably not, because who wants to drive an hour to go to an Italian restaurant when there's probably a dozen of them in that town? So you got to be logical sense about it too. And you want to make sure that, you're not filling your page or stuffing your page with these keywords, because you can get penalized from the search engines for overuse of words that are not relevant to the content within your website. All right, so back to our spreadsheet. I want you to go ahead and that second tab or that second spreadsheet, I want you to take maybe like the top 5 or 10 keywords that you would like to rank for. And I want you to go through and take note, do a Google search for those keywords and take note of who's in the current top 5 positions for those keywords. And just put those in your spreadsheet, each one of them in a different column. So, and do this, keep going down the list of the keywords. If you want to do 15, you want to do 20, whatever it takes, whatever you feel comfortable with. But, I'm good with, 5 or 10 of these keywords that you check in and seeing the pattern of what these competitors for these keywords are doing. What's earning them that top spot in the search engine. So a helpful tip for you when doing this kind of research is if you're logged into, say, Google Chrome or Firefox, if you're logged into Google, or you want to make sure you log out, and when possible, use a private tab setting within a lot of the modern browsers today. This will allow you to get a true results versus a results that is based on your search habits. Google and some of the other search engines are changing the way that they serve the results, and they're giving you what you want to see. So if you're searching for your own business all the time, you're going to see your business come up more often in the search engines. Yet this might not be where you truly rank. So some of the tools that we gave you earlier, you can log in and check your rankings for the keywords, and you'll notice that it doesn't match to your search history that you're getting on your computer, which is a good thing because you're not trying to sell to yourself, you're trying to sell to your customer or your targeted customer. So therefore, you want to be able to see what they're seeing. Okay, so now we have our keywords, we know what we'd like to rank for, and we know who our biggest competitors are. Are they the same people you thought they were? You know, who's ranking for these words and how are they doing it? So spend a few minutes and analyze this list of competitors that you came up with and look at their websites. Look at what they're doing. How often are they using those keywords within their content? You know, there's all kinds of things we're going to discuss in later parts of this series where it might be within the code of the website itself. You might not see it on the page. And we'll teach you how to look for some of these things in areas that you can do. There's some tags that you can put with images that describe the image and give you some of the keywords and relevancy around what that content is. Because search engines cannot read an image. They can only read the code that makes up that image. So adding these tags in there will help. And like I said, we'll get to that later in the series. That's not important today. Today is more about finding out your competitors and what they're doing. So you want to look at the amount of content they have on their website. You know, are they running a blog that contains articles related to the keywords that they're ranking for? Are they having an information library in there? You know, the nature of it comes down to what your business is and what you do and who you're trying to target. You know, a doctor's office might have a ton of helpful tips or information about common medical ailments or illnesses that helps them rank for certain things. Or they may do a review of certain medicines that are out there, or, you know, whatever your business is. You know, a restaurant could be featured images or recipes and things that are going to draw people in. That type of stuff. That's what you're looking for. What can make you more competitive? What gives you the advantage over these other sites? And how does it come back to those keywords that you want to rank on? You know, is it relevant? Is it going to boost those keywords when people are searching for them? So doing this, you're creating pages that the content discusses the entire topic around that keyword. This gives the opportunity for you to engage with users by having them read more, and you start to build trust in your site. Therefore, they may want to take you up on your call to action on your page. And we'll get into a little bit more about call of actions and what they are later in the series. So, but basically, for them to convert on a call to action equals more money in the bank for you. So, bottom line, you're looking to increase your revenue and gain more customers. And to do this, you need to have them engaging with the content on your website and trusting your website. All right, so as we wrap up this part 2 in our SEO series, we want to talk about your key takeaways from the lesson. So you got to remember that you should not only spend a good amount of time analyzing your own website, but you should also be analyzing your competition. One of the key principles in SEO is that it's not only about what you're doing, but it's about what everybody else around you is doing at the same time. Obviously, you can only control what happens with your own website, but by keeping an eye on what other sites are doing, you can be sure to understand what factors they are implementing to give the search engines a better decisions when ranking. So compile your keywords and organize them into categories. Set up yourself to create content around entire topics, not just one or two keywords. Think about the users at all times. What would you go to see on a page? You got to think like your customer or your targeted audience to understand what they're going to be looking for. It's not about you, it's about them. So I hope you've enjoyed this section of our SEO series. Be sure to join us next week when we will go more in depth into one of the most important parts of search engine optimization. That's site layout, design, and structure as we continue the SEO series. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if you need more information or help with any of the topics discussed here today. All right, everybody, it's time to wrap up this show and get out of here. Life is short. Don't just dream, do. We will see you next week on Remove Before Flight. Thank you for listening.